Why does it feel like when you make a mistake, the whole world is ending? In this video, I'm going to show you how you can quickly accept all of your mistakes and then use them to actually work for you and then learn from those mistakes for the future. I'm going to show you how to accept those unresourceful and potentially intrusive thoughts and then make them work for you and also learn from them at the end. Hello, and if you're new here, welcome to Reality Switch Coaching. My name is Joohong, and I am an authentic reality architect and master NLP practitioner. Throughout my management career at Disney and my marriage, I really learned the power of how we view our mistakes. Over time, I really started to learn how to open myself up to the feedback that I was getting, and I actually, instead of just shitting on myself, I actually learned to give myself a lot more grace and understanding. So let's start from the darkness and unthink about this. So let's start with what some of our unresourceful thoughts on mistakes are. What is usually your first thought when you make a mistake? I know for me, I'm usually like, I'm such an idiot. I could have done that better. Why didn't I do it this way? Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. All of the things. And then sometimes you have those other people in your life where maybe you, I don't know, forgot to take out the trash and someone comes over to you and is like, wow, like, how'd you forget to take out the trash? Why are you such an idiot? And then you're like, oh, my bad, I totally forgot. And they're just like, well, stop being stupid and remember to do that, or stop being forgetful and all these things. And they're just like adding on and piling on to already this huge pile of just stuff that you're already thinking about. And when that happens, it feels like you've already started this little like vortex of just shit, of just all of these unresourceful feelings and thoughts about yourself. And eventually what happens is that just grows and it grows and it grows and it gets bigger and bigger as we start to spiral into it. And really, it's really important to think about how your environment and the people you're around can affect you, right? Because let's say you're in an environment where the people are all about being perfect and like in a super toxic way. And so any little thing that you do that might just not be exactly a 10, maybe you had like a 9.5, like they just crush you every time and just make you feel like crap, right? Same thing with the people that you have around you as well. Like if you have people and you're able to, right, you're able to get out of that situation or away from those people, you want to make sure like that those people are not also bringing you down. I can remember a lot of stories of when my wife and I would get into arguments, and especially in the beginning of our marriage, and we would argue about little things like maybe house chores. I mean, talking about forgetting to take out the trash, right? Or not doing the laundry or not helping out enough. And she would tell me like, oh, you know, like I just need more help around the house. And I immediately got very defensive and I would be like, look, I'm doing all these other things. I'm working so hard and all of this stuff. And we would almost get to the point, well, we would get to the point where I would eventually just be like, you know what? I should just end it. Like not even just our relationships, like I should end myself. Because life was just so stressful and there was no way I was going to be able to do it. And back when I was just like in that shit vortex, it really felt like there was no way out. There was no way for me to be better. There was no way for me to undo these things. There's no way for me to avoid making these mistakes because I was already in this shitstorm, this vortex of just unresourceful thoughts. And over what? Like, I was at the point of willing to just end my life because I forgot to take out the trash, or because maybe I dropped a dish in the sink and now it's broken and now I have to clean it up and all these things. Like, it's crazy how much into ourselves we can get over the smallest of things. And this is the power that we are giving to these mistakes. And I'm glad you're here now, and we're going to talk about, what's the next step? How do I get out of here? So one thing I learned over time was how to rethink about things. And I always talk about unthinking about things. And one of the things I had to realize was that, let's say, for instance, my wife, we'll use that example right now. When she would come at me, or I felt like she was coming at me, I had to remember that her intention is not necessarily to bring me down. Her intention is just, hey, I just need some help. Just asking for help. And I had to remember that. So I would have to ask questions and see, okay, what does she need help with? What is she really asking here? Is it really about me? It's probably not about me. It's probably about this situation that we're trying to figure out. And really, it's just understanding the other person's perspective, which can be hard at times. It can be hard, especially when you're twirling in that vortex. It can get very hard. You just take a breath, really think about, okay, is this person really attacking me? Or do I just feel like I'm being attacked? And that's a whole nother conversation that we could talk about. But right now, it's just about taking that break, taking the time, and remembering the people around you, especially your loved ones, right? Most likely, their intention is to just ask for help, get some support, whatever the case is, make you your best version of yourself, something like that. And the way they're doing it just might not be in the way that you want them to. Another thing that I learned too was just understanding that everybody is their most excellent self all the time. So what this means is that people can only do the best with what they know. If my wife didn't know that when she points something out that I'm lacking in, that it causes me to feel like I'm being attacked, then how is she supposed to change? Right? And so, then we open up the dialogue and there's more talking and more figuring things out, getting clarification. And so just remember, just as you are your most excellent self, doing the best you can with what you have and what you know, the other person is also that way. Another thing that may help you too is this idea of that perception is projection. So if someone is calling you lazy and maybe your behaviors actually don't show that, I mean, you might be lazy, who knows? But let's assume for this that you're not actually lazy. It's most likely that that person themselves feels like they're lazy, whether they actually are or not. This is how they feel, and they are going to now see that in you. And so they're going to call it out in you, because that is easier than calling it out in themselves. But this is something that they probably don't even realize is what's happening. And the same thing is true for you, right? If you call someone else lazy or an idiot or stupid or whatever, you're really saying that about yourself. And so what is it in you that you feel like, oh, I'm so stupid about this, oh, I'm such an idiot about this, that is causing you to now project that out onto other people? So it works both ways, and just something to think about. I would also recommend just actively reframing. So reframing is really, at its simplest form, is just rethinking about something, reframing the way that it looks. And so one thing I highly recommend is when other people say, oh my gosh, you're so stupid, even if they're just joking, just internally within yourself, just remind yourself like, well, actually, I'm very smart. Because what happens is those things, they just get inside of your brain and they just stay lodged in there until you eventually, hopefully, you actually start to process through them. But if you don't, and you're just going through life and people are calling you this, calling you that, tossing these labels on you, and you're not actively trying to reframe them or completely just disagree with them, then those things will stay with you. So make sure that you're actively reframing. So if someone is like, oh, you're so stupid, you don't have to say it out loud, but you can if you want. But you can just say it within your head. Just, no, I'm actually very smart. And this time I just made a mistake. It happens. Always trying to change the environment and the people. You can always do this. Well, if you can, try to do this. And the thing that's going to really give you the most power is that no matter what environment or situation you're in, not taking into consideration more extreme situations, right? Just generally speaking, if you can go into any situation and understand people are being their most excellent and understand that you may need to reframe things because people don't know how to use their language properly, to understand that most people's intentions are not to harm you and they're actually just trying to ask for something of you or to help you out. If you can go into any situation with that or talk to anybody with those things in mind, truthfully, that's really what we're going for here. So yes, could you change your environment? Could you change the people you're hanging around with? Of course. Yes, you can. Just make sure that you're also doing the work inside yourself too, so that no matter where you are, you're always going to be able to defend yourself against these unresourceful thoughts. Also, make sure you advocate for yourself. I mean, no one is going to care as much about you as you are. And you need to make sure that you're setting clear expectations and boundaries when it comes to communication. So if someone comes at, well, you feel like someone's coming at you, then, you know, let that person know, hey, when you said this, it made me feel very defensive. And I want, like, can you help me figure out like what it was that you said, or maybe it was how you said it that just kind of really triggered me. And then, you know, work with that person like, oh, my bad. Sorry, I didn't mean to trigger you. Like, what can I do differently? Well, I think what I'll do differently is this. And if you could just help me out, can you do that? Can you talk to me this way? Or can you, if you're going to say something, just bring it up to me in this way. And then, you know, with the end result, you still have to have the conversation. You can't just tell them, well, next time I messed up, just don't talk about it. Just don't bring it up. Okay, well then things will never get better because we're never talking about the thing. You have to shine the light on the thing, create yourself an environment, build yourself an environment where the people in that environment are going to respond to you in a way that you actually like and in a way that's going to motivate you to then, okay, let me change. So before we get into the last point, I just want to make sure that if you do like this content and you're enjoying it, please remember to subscribe or like the video now. And that way you're going to get notified for our future content. We release 2 videos every week, one on Thursday, one on Saturday. And we really want to make sure that we bring as many people on this journey out of their darkness and into their most radiant, beautiful selves. All right, let's get back in the video. So for the last point, it's time to learn for ourselves. And the reason I say time to learn for ourselves is because I feel like we are very good at maybe saying, well, that's what this person needs to learn. This person needs to learn that. And I don't think enough we look inside of ourselves to see, okay, how did I cause this? Maybe I didn't clearly communicate what I needed. Maybe I need to work on my confidence so that way when people give me feedback, I'm not crumbling and feeling like I'm always being attacked. So by this point, hopefully you're either out of that shit vortex or you're almost out of it. And one thing that's really going to pull you out of it is just to ask yourself one question. What can I do differently to avoid this mistake in the future? And I want you to really understand that the reason it's about what can I do to avoid this mistake in the future, the reason it's stated that way is because who can you control? At the end of the day, who are you able to influence 100%? No matter what the environment, no matter who you're around, who can you control? Exactly. And so, yes, could you blame other people? Could you blame the environment? Oh, well, the soap is too sudsy and it made it really slippery and fell out of my hands. Oh, well, the trash schedule isn't clear enough for me, and so that's why I did. Yes, could you go that route? Sure, but we're here for growth. We're here to get better, to be our most excellent selves. So, for instance, like with the soap, let's say, okay, well, maybe next time I should wear dish gloves, or maybe next time I won't put so much soap on the sponge so that way it's not too sudsy. With the trash, oh, you know, next time I'll set a notification in my phone if if I need to, then that's going to remind me that I need to take out the trash. Or I'm going to put it up on my calendar because I use my calendar all the time, And so when you are coming up with these things that you can do to avoid the mistakes in the future, feel free to experiment. Whatever works for you, you might not figure it out right away, but make sure you're doing it intentionally. And eventually you're going to find something that actually, you know what? Whenever I need to remind myself about anything, I'll use this calendar because it really worked well. Or I'll make sure I put a notification in my phone or my watch or whatever the case is. And that's going to remind me, that really works for me. Don't make sure that you keep trying things out, keep experimenting until you find something that's going to actually work for you. So that way you can avoid making these mistakes in the future, whatever the case is. And while I mentioned a lot of physical things you can do, like writing things down, setting notifications on stuff, it could also be things like thought processes. It doesn't have to only be behaviors. It can be, how can I think about this differently that's going to avoid us getting into this conflict? And again, it has to still resolve the conflict. Your thought process can't be, I'm just gonna not think about this ever again, I'll just keep my mouth shut so that way we don't have this conflict. You need to learn how to resolve the conflicts. These points are just going to help you start to break into that and really get you a little bit more comfortable with just having these conversations and having them in a resourceful way that's not just a blaming match or anything like that. So it can be a thought process. It can be an identity shift. If you need to change your identity as far as before I used to think that I am stupid. Okay, I should probably change that. I am smart. Great. Wonderful. Change your identity. It's a lot simple. It's that simple. You could also change your values too. Maybe your values are a little bit off. I know that my wife, she one time pointed out, and this blew my mind, and the way she brought it up, amazing. And she would talk to me about how she felt like she wasn't a priority in my life. And in my mind, I was like, I'm working 2 jobs. I'm barely paying the bills. We still go out to eat sometimes. We go to the movies. What does she mean? And she brought up that whenever it came to anyone else, I would drop everything and I would go. If someone asked me, can you help me with this? Boom, I'd be gone. If it was about her, my time priorities would lack a little bit. And so I had to change my values. I realized that I actually wasn't putting her as my number 1, and she was probably maybe my number 2 or 3. And so I had to change my values. I'm like, all right, let me put her actually higher. And now my behaviors and everything else, all that changed too. So just make sure you're looking at all the ways that you could possibly do better in the future. And you have a lot of tools at your disposal. And it's very simple, actually. It's not as hard as you might think. So yeah, so whatever you can do, just kind of think on that, brainstorm. You can use the other person if you're that close with the other person and you can use them as a brainstorming partner, then do that. Ask them hey, with everything you know about me, what could I do differently to avoid this in the future? Boom, that's it, done. I have a recommendation for you. This book, Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown, this book truly helped me embrace my vulnerable side and how to live more courageously through that vulnerability. I would highly recommend it. I'll put a link to the book in the description below. Make sure you check this out. It's absolutely amazing. Brené Brown, life-changing. So as always, thank you for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe this video now. I'll see you in the next video, and stay excellent.